Hi cherubs, welcome to this video of mine here on my channel. This one's going to be a little bit different today, but I thought, you know what, this is actually a really interesting suggestion. So somebody who watches my channel asked me recently if I would consider doing a video about living alone, what it is like living alone, and if I have any tips or what my experiences have been. And I thought, yeah, go on then, that sounds quite interesting actually. And if nothing else, it will just give you a little bit more information about me, who I am and what my preferences are, etc. So even if you have no interest in living alone, if you don't live alone and you don't expect to, I hope you will still get something out of this. So first things first, why do I live alone? I did not always live alone. I'm in my mid-30s now, so I've had a lot of different living situations over the course of time. But after a very long time of living in shared houses with friends and living consecutively with two partners, first with one partner for 2 or 3 years and then with another partner for the best part of 5 years, I ended up in this interesting situation where I was able to live alone. And it was also the most sensible thing to do, to live alone. So basically at the moment I have a 1-bedroom apartment, and I did live here previously with my partner. When my partner moved out, when we broke up, obviously this is the kind of apartment where you can really only live on your own or with a romantic partner. There is no other bedroom. So it's not as if you can just move a friend in and then it becomes a housemate situation, a flatmate situation. That wasn't going to be the case for me. I became single and then, yeah, I ended up living alone because of that. Fortunately, I was able to afford my apartment on my own, so that wasn't an issue. And so I ended up in this situation where I was living alone. And to be honest with you, I had previously always wondered if I would have issues living alone, particularly loneliness, and also maybe exacerbated mental health issues. So I do suffer with depression, for example. I do have a specific diagnosis. It used to be called psychotic depression. It's called something else now. But that diagnosis involves things like mania, and other bits and pieces. So in the past, I did think to myself, when I was living with partners and friends and stuff, I did think, oh, I wonder if living alone would actually make those things worse. Maybe it would exacerbate my issues. And I was curious about that. But by the time my partner and I broke up in 2017 and he moved out, I really felt I was actually ready to live alone. My fear had ebbed away and I was actually much more curious and I was kind of excited. So I went from feeling like maybe it wouldn't be a very good idea and I didn't really relish the idea to actually feeling quite gung-ho about it. I was like, yeah, go on then, why not, let's try it. So I was quite excited to be living on my own. And actually now I look back and I think about my discovery of Frida Kahlo, her life, her work. I was very interested in Frida Kahlo in my teens and I continue to just marvel at her and her life and everything. I remember being very taken by the house that she had that was connected to Diego's house. So some of you will know what I mean. They had a red house and a blue house, and the two houses were connected by a bridge. And obviously it's the privilege of money that allowed all of this to happen. I know it's not an ordinary thing that your average common person with normal money could do, but because they were both very successful, renowned artists, they were able to have a situation where they both had these nice big houses with studios inside them, joined by a bridge. And that was very symbolic for them as people, you know, this idea that they were a couple that were very much in love, but they were separate people, and they also were, you know, they had an open relationship framework, and they also made their own art and, you know, kept different sleep schedules and stuff. So what they preferred was this idea that they lived next to each other in separate places, but joined by this bridge, and the bridge was the representation of them sharing their lives together. But essentially they still had their own places. And I remember as a teenager actually loving that and thinking that that would be the ideal thing. So now when I look back, I see that there were some seeds of me wanting to live independently, and this lovely idea that I'd like to share my life with someone who also has their own place and their own space. I'm not so taken with the bridge idea anymore, but I did like the idea of, oh, you know, I can come to yours and have dinner, you can come to mine, and I can entertain you, but essentially we live apart. And I remember thinking there was something very romantic and very profound about that. So that in the end is where I feel I've ended up. Living alone has really helped me to grow as a person. on so many levels, it's helped me to grow as a person. I am now no longer interested in cohabiting with romantic partners or with friends. I'm actually single at the moment as I'm making this video, very much single and very happy being single, not looking. But for me, when the next sort of really significant person comes into my life, I know that I will have that conversation with them as we become closer. I will say, you know, cohabitation for me is not the next step in a relationship as it gets more serious. I am not, you know, thinking about eventually moving in with you. Are you okay with that? Is that something that you can handle? In much the same way as I have to, when I get serious with a partner, I have to tell them I don't want children. I'm never going to want children. It's not on my agenda and never has been. In the same way, if I get really serious with someone, yeah, they have to know that I'm not looking to cohabit. I really like living in my own place and running my own space. So yeah, that's something I obviously have become very keen on and accustomed to. And so I'm not interested in cohabiting anymore. I love living solo now. I am definitely aware that it is a massive privilege to be able to afford to live alone. And this is not a big apartment by any stretch of the imagination. I call it my little princess attic because it's sort of a converted attic flat and it's very dinky. It suits my purposes perfectly. It feels very safe. It's big enough for me. It's ideal for just one person. And it's just so cute and lovely, but it doesn't cost a great deal of money to run. But I am extremely lucky that I can afford it on what I earn. It's a situation at the moment in this country, as I know it is in many parts of the world, where that is actually a privilege. And so I'm really lucky. And as I was saying, it's helped me grow so much. I think I focus much more on my spiritual path since I started living alone in 2017. I get a lot more done, spiritually speaking, so that's amazing. I think I work a lot more problems out on my own now, living alone. I don't so easily reach for conversation with my partner that I live with or my friend that I live with. So I definitely resolve a lot more things inside of myself. And I think I've been much more resourceful as well about what I can do for myself, as well as reaching out for support. So it's not that I never reach out for support since I started living alone, but I definitely am more resourceful. I think to myself, can I go to the altar with this? Can I go out for a walk? Should I do myself a reading? Maybe I should have a nap. Because there isn't that immediate sense that I can turn to the person that I live with over the kitchen table or when they come in from work. I can't do that. So it's made me become a lot more sort of sure that I can probably sort it out on my own. And then I think when I do reach out for support, it usually is when I really need it, as opposed to just because it's there, which I really like. Okay, so now I've kind of explained a little bit about how I ended up living alone and the fact that I do actually like living alone. So don't panic, don't worry, this is something I love to do. I want to talk about some pros, some definite benefits for me of living alone. Then I'm going to talk about cons, and then I'm going to give some tips, some advice if you are thinking of living alone, if you are in a position where you are going to be living on your own anytime soon, or if you just wonder if it is something that you might want, but you also have some concerns about, you know, what might go wrong if you live alone. And bear in mind as well, I live alone with no pets. So honestly, during the first really hard lockdown, when I got back to the UK, I did feel really quite alone in this flat. You know, I did wish I had like a little chihuahua that would just come and sit on me and look longingly into my eyes, but I'm not ready to be a dog mum yet or a cat mum yet. I'm not ready to own pets that would need my attention in any sort of ongoing focused way, because usually when there isn't a global pandemic, I am out and about a lot and I'm staying at people's houses. I like to fly to cities and do city breaks, and I like to go to parties for hours, guys. So I would worry about giving a pet the time and attention that it deserved. So I guess that's a con, but I didn't write it down, so it won't go in the cons list. But yeah, there is like no one around to look after the pet should I choose to go and do something kind of wild. So I'm very much living alone, no pets. So here we go. Here are some of the pros that I wrote down for why I love living alone. I know in the intro I actually said that I've grown a lot. I focus more on my spirituality. That's definitely true. There's just so much fewer distractions, and also, as I said, I think I'm more resourceful about sorting out my own issues. But there are some other pros as well. So first of all, I love that I can keep a weird sleep schedule without worrying about waking anyone up. That is something about living alone that I find so joyous. I love the fact that I can wake up at a random point in the night, not be able to go back to sleep, and then decide that I'm just going to make a collage in the living room, or I'm going to put something on Netflix, or I'm going to make a cup of tea. And I don't have to worry about anybody else being woken up by me. I don't have to sneak around and be super quiet. It's just, yeah, it's just my place. So I very much like that. I also like the fact that I don't feel obligated ever to go and lie down with a partner. So if I have a partner in my apartment, usually I do want to keep the same sleep cycle as them on that night. I don't really want to stay up while they go to bed. We'll normally go to bed at the same time. But I don't feel, because I don't live with a partner all the time. When I did live with a partner, I did feel if it was a certain amount of days that we had a different sleep schedule, I felt bad. I felt like I wanted to be a real night owl and I was working on a project in the night, and I felt like my partner was getting neglected, sort of thing, because that would happen sometimes. And I remember having several conversations with my first long-term important boyfriend where it was like, we need to get back on the same circadian rhythm, we're like missing out on our key time together, bedroom time. So that I don't have a problem with anymore. And when I do have a partner over, as I said, I'm single as hell at the moment, guys, but when I do have partners over to stay, if I do wake up randomly a few hours before them, or I don't want to go to bed at the same time as them, it feels okay because it's just fine. Whereas if I lived with a partner, I think after a few nights I'd be like, oh, we need to get to bed at the same time. So I like the fact that I can just keep a weird schedule, and I can just like rip paper in the middle of the night and make a collage or tap away on my laptop, and I don't have to worry about waking anyone. I also like that I can choose where things go in my space, and the decor is down to me. And some of my decor is kind of weird. I mean, obviously I've got 2 working altars that are full of weird stuff. I have teddy bears all over my living room. I love my stuffies, plushies, whatever you want to call them. I've got some quite strange things happening in this room. I'm not too strange, but if you don't like abstract expressionism, this might bother you. If you don't like the Blair Witch vibe, this might bother you. I've got a massive Rage Against the Machine poster on the back of my door. I mean, I probably wouldn't date anyone who wasn't impressed by that, to be honest. And I've actually got all of my long, really colourful hair extensions hung on my wardrobe, and it's a beautiful display. It looks incredible, but this is the kind of thing that's quite, it's very me, and maybe someone that lived with me wouldn't particularly like that. What else? Just sort of bits and pieces. Like, I can leave my books stacked all over the place. I don't have to worry about living with someone who would find that irritating or might feel that I need to put things away. Whereas to me, a stack of books is put away. It's a stack of books. I'm going through them. I'm using them. I'm about to read them imminently, or I just like the look of them all together. So I don't feel like they need to be put away. So it's very nice that I feel like that's something that I have control over. So yeah, control of my space, where I put things, the decor, all of that. I also like that I don't have to worry about being considerate, high vibe, cheery, chatty, all of those things if I don't want to be and if I'm not feeling it. Now, I know that there's loads of people that live with others who do not expect, like, people when they live together, they don't automatically expect each other to be high vibe and conversational and polite all the time. And I think that's great because we're not like that all the time. And I think we should just embrace each other for whatever it is we're going through in the moment. But let's face it, because we are so nuanced and so complex and going through different things, sometimes it does really grate on a person if somebody that they live with is being short with them or not wanting to talk to them, or vice versa, if the other person is being really chatty and really like high vibe and really, oh, how you doing, and you just really want to decompress and you don't want to feel the pressure of having to talk to them about their day at work or whatever. I don't like not being the best version of myself with people. Now, don't get me wrong, I do that. I'm a human being, right? Like, I will not be the best version of myself sometimes. But living alone, if I've got really bad PMT, for example, if my back pain is playing up, if I've got depression, I know that I can cancel a social gathering, or I can make certain amendments with a social gathering that I'm going to if I feel like I'm not up to it, I'm not in the mood, or I just want to let certain people know beforehand that, I'll come, but I'm not going to be like, I'm kind of down, but I will come and make the best of it. I can do that when I'm making plans to go out. What I like about living alone is I don't have to do that with people in my home. I don't have to say, I'm sorry, I'm just on my period right now. I'm sorry, I'm just not in a good mood. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing that, but I love that I don't have to. Sometimes my premenstrual tension can be very intense, and it makes me very weepy. It makes me it gives me issues that connect with my depression, such as body dysmorphia, and just being very, very pensive sometimes, and not knowing how I feel as well, kind of like, switching between moods. I like that I can just do that on my own. I don't have to worry about how it might be making somebody else feel, and I really appreciate that. I'm quite privacy driven in some weird ways. Sometimes I just don't like people to touch things. I don't like somebody to move my laptop or start using my laptop to put something into a search engine, for example, without asking me. I don't like people to move my laundry or do my laundry. Just weird things like that, where I just want things not to be touched sometimes. Or if somebody's looking for something, I'd like them to ask me, that kind of stuff. And it's nice to live alone because I don't have to navigate that quite so much. I feel like, things are where I left them. I don't have to be like, hey, did you touch this? Did you move this or whatever, which is, I appreciate that. I like that. That's a good thing. Another thing is, obviously, ritual can happen in my living room and I don't have to clear up straight away. I can make a collage and I don't have to clean up straight away. I don't have to worry about anybody else needing to use the space. It's my space. So if I want an art project going for 3 days, I can have that, If I want some weird witchy shit happening on the floor, I can have that. So that's really good. I really enjoy that. And also, I am what you would describe in the polyamory community as solo polyam. So essentially, and it's a lot more complicated than that, guys, and I will make a video about some of my views on romance and relationships, because I know some people are really interested about that and have asked me to make a video on it. But essentially, I do believe that I can see multiple people romantically, and I believe that it's possible for me to fall in love with more than one person at a time romantically, and I have done that. So I do also like to live alone for that reason, because I don't want to have a nesting partner. When you're poly or you have a non-monogamous framework, you will see different people or indeed love different people at the same time. If you have a nesting partner, meaning somebody that you live with, there's always going to be a question of, am I going to be able to have the place alone so I can have my other partner over, or is that not going to be a thing that's okay? And does my nesting partner need to have another partner over for them, or what is going on here? And then if you start seeing someone, what's their situation? Can they have you over to their place? Or I don't have to deal with any of that. This is my place. Nobody else lives here. If I want to have somebody over, I can have somebody over. And if 2 nights later I want to make somebody else dinner and have them over, I can do that. And so that's very useful for me, and has come in handy previously in a situation where I was seeing 2 people at the same time who knew about each other, and it was all open and all that jazz. Please do not get any funny ideas about polyam or non-monogamy. It's not the same as deceit. It's very much everything is above board. But yes, it did help me that I didn't have that worry about wanting to invite someone to mine and having somebody who lives here and having to have that conversation. So that is a pro for me. Okay, the not so good things about living alone, and I've been living alone for a while now. I've been living alone since 2017. First of all, I had a realization when I first started living alone that I might sometimes only tidy things up or declutter or sort out certain things in my space because other people were coming over. And I realized that that is unself-loving. I should want my space to be beautiful for me, not just because people are coming over, but like for me. Now, I'm not a neat freak. I'm not a clean freak. I don't mind things getting a little wayward and then going around and tidying and enjoying the feeling of tidying. But what I realized was sometimes I would let the place go and I'd have piles of washing, piles of books, dishes not done. And then it would get closer to somebody coming over for dinner, like a friend or whatever. And suddenly I would go into, I have to make everything lovely for them because I'm hosting kind of mode. And I realised that that was something that I needed to deal with. And I still do slip up on that, where it seems more important for me to make the place nice for other people who don't even live here. And then I'm not leaving it as nice or making it as nice for myself. So that's something that is an ongoing journey for me. And it's something that I'm glad that I recognised, because it's a challenge for me and it's something that I can work at and get better at. For people who live alone, let me know, or even people that don't live alone but you live with family or whatever, let me know, do you pull out all the stops when you're about to host, but when it comes to just you enjoying your space, you leave things undone that you would really prefer to have done? Because I think that's an interesting dialogue to have with ourselves, where it's like, okay, why am I not worth tidying up and making this place lovely and having a scented candle on and all the stuff I do when I have guests, you know? Another not so great thing, another downside about living alone, is all the responsibility, of course, falls on me. And sometimes I'm not that great at dealing with official mail and I leave things till the last minute. Sometimes I don't remember bin day. I am very bad at remembering bin day, and I've tried alarms and all kinds of things. I don't know what it is, but sometimes I just don't take my bins down and it's really irritating. And then I've got like double the recycling because I didn't empty my recycling bin, and I've got more recycling, and then I end up with a big recycling bag in the kitchen. Hit me up down below if you literally can feel my pain. Let me know I'm not alone on that. So that's irritating, especially because my ex-partner, before he moved out, was so good at remembering bin day. Super housebroken, and I'm obviously not as good. So that's a con and something that I still need to deal with. And seriously, I've been living alone since 2017. I still forget bin day. What's going on here? So I need to sort that out. Occasionally I get lonely and I feel sad, of course, you know. I think it can be compounded by it being the middle of the night and being here alone. If I'm sad, if I'm depressed about something, well, not depressed, you know, depressed. I don't have to be depressed about something necessarily, but if I'm going through something, I think it can help sometimes to have other people in your home, even if they're asleep and you're the only one awake. There's at least that feeling that you can go and cuddle up to them, or if you've got kids in your home, at least you can go and, you know, go and look at them asleep in their bed and take some comfort from that. Or if you've got a pet, at least you can, you know, look at your pet asleep, or I don't know, you just feel that you're not so alone. So that's definitely something that has troubled me, but definitely not to the extent where I regret living alone. But yeah, it does come up. I do get lonely. I struggle on and off with communication anxiety, which manifests itself in a very interesting way. I've had it since about 2015, and it coincided with me going full time with my job. And I know why it is, and I'm dealing with it, and it's much better now than it was. But essentially, it does sometimes make it difficult to reach out when I actually do need to reach out. So that's something that becomes a struggle. You know, when I might need to reach out, but I won't because of that. You know, I feel overwhelmed, or maybe I want to reach out to somebody, but I didn't reply to their last message because of the communication anxiety. So then I feel like I can't reach out if I'm in need. Again, that's become a lot better, and I've become much better at actually explaining to my friends that I have that issue. And so often they will just check in with me. If they haven't heard from me, they'll say, hey, if you need me, I'm here. No need to reply to my last message, just letting you know that I'm here. So I have some very lovely, very considerate friends. And I was bold enough to be honest with them about the fact that when you live alone and you have communication anxiety, obviously that thing that would make it easier would be if somebody was imminently there. So you kind of break down your resistance to communicating quite quickly because someone is there. Whereas when that's not happening, you have to push yourself a bit more through the resistance. So at least I've been honest about that, and my friends get that that can be an issue, and they kind of persevere with me. Obviously, when you live alone, no help with bills, no help with groceries, you know, you have to pay your council tax yourself, you've got to do all that yourself. So I guess that's a con sometimes, you know. Obviously I'm self-employed, so my money does go up and down. I've become very good at watching the patterns for me of what happens financially though. Most tarot readers will tell you that we do make less money in the summer. It's not as popular a thing in the summer. We do a lot of our more inward reflection during the colder months. And So obviously for a lot of my clients being on the Northern Hemisphere, things are more chill in the summer. So I know to kind of start gathering my sort of resources in the spring, so that summer is more about being rich in time for me as opposed to rich in money. And then I start really making my bigger money as we move towards Samhain and Yule and Imbolc. So I know the patterns. Sometimes unexpected things can happen, like, mass job losses from COVID and how that affected my business, and other things. So, or, unexpected expenses for me, that kind of stuff. So I know how to have a handle on it roughly so that it's not that difficult to pay for everything alone. But yeah, I mean, I do know lots of couples, lots of families who all chip in together and they all sort of share the expenses. That doesn't happen when you live alone and you're vehemently independent like I am. That's a con for sure. But it's okay. Again, it definitely doesn't make me feel any regret about living alone. It's just one of those things. A couple of times, scary noises have happened in this flat and I feel a little bit freaked out. Sometimes noises happen and I think, oh, well, I'm a witch. I mean, I'm a spiritual gangster. I'll deal with the shit. If it happens to be a poltergeist, then what of it? Like, come at me. But sometimes I'm overtired or, things are going on with my mental health where I am a little bit afraid. And that's happened twice. And I've had to phone someone in the middle of the night and just be like, tell me there isn't somebody walking up my stairs coming to kill me. So that's a very, very small disadvantage. And finally, a disadvantage of living alone and happily living alone is the idea that it might be a deal breaker at some point for somebody that I get serious with who really does want to cohabit. So that's something to think about. I mean, I did have a deal breaker previously with a partner and we broke up over this. But it wasn't just that he wanted to live with me, it was that he wanted children. He wanted a different kind of lifestyle entirely and he wanted to have kids and that's not, that's never going to be me, baby. So it wasn't just cohabitation, but that was part of the reason that we broke up. So I do have it in the back of my mind that might happen again, but hey, I guess that person just won't be the person for me if that's the case. Okay, so what kinds of tips and insights do I have for you if you would like to understand more about how to smash it living alone, basically, how to do it well? Okay, first of all, do not believe that it's always the natural progression to move in with a partner. You can have a successful relationship without cohabitation, and maybe you are a pioneer who will help your partner and others to understand that. And I would definitely recommend Googling the phrase living apart together, because this is actually, it's been studied in sociology. It's very popular in certain cultures across the world. There are lots of married couples that, are together, but they live in separate places. There are lots of couples that are perfectly happy having their own places. There's so many pros to doing that if it's possible and if it's what you both want to try. So that's the first thing I would say, is don't get railroaded into this idea that that's the next step that's got to be taken in order to legitimize a relationship, because that isn't the case. And if you can live alone and you want to try living alone, or even if you live with friends but you feel pressured to move in with a romantic partner, please don't take it that way. There's so many different ways that you can do it. Relish being alone as a luxury. Think of it as really a luxury. It's a luxury of time. It's the luxury of the space that's just yours, that you can do what you want with that space. You can decorate it the way you want. Like I said, you can leave a massive art project on the floor for days on end. You do not have to answer to anyone. So try and think of that as a luxury, but also know that you can reach out to friends, you can reach out to loved ones, you can connect with online community when needed. And there is no shame in realizing that you do need that you're feeling lonely, you want some interaction. That's okay, So definitely think of it as a privilege and a luxury and fun, but also remember, look, hey, sometimes it ceases to be fun. That's perfectly fine. That's the moment where you make some plans with people or talk to someone or whatever. Go on one of those sites, go on, like, I don't know, chat roulette. I don't know, I've never been on one of them, but one of those sites where you can just talk to people, do that, I've put here, always remember what you've got at your disposal if you are dealing with loneliness, or if you just want to focus on something aside from all the thoughts in your head, So music, audiobooks, podcasts, movies, series that you like. Put things on, feel accompanied by the radio or by audiobooks. Have projects that you're working on, and again, relish the fact that the space is facilitating those projects and allowing you to have more of a sense of what the timeline for those projects is. And if you want a project all over your kitchen table, just think about how amazing it is that no one's going to come and say, darling, I want to put dinner on here, or darling, can you move this, or do you mind, like, you're not going to have that. So that is just sumptuous, honestly. Really get into it and fall in love with it. Talk to yourself. That's a tip that I have. I actually have always talked to myself since I was a child. I used to orate whole speeches in the mirror pretending I was Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, but that's just me. Maybe you don't want to do that. But yeah, talk to yourself. Talk to yourself about things you need to put on your shopping list. Talk to yourself about if you had a weird dream or a nightmare, wake up and go, oh, that was scary, blimey, and like hug yourself, you know. If you're reading something and you're alone, just say, oh, that's interesting. I think that can really create a sense of you communing with yourself and enjoying just your own thoughts and appreciating the sound of your own voice. You can think of living alone as an experiment. It doesn't have to be forever. If it's something that you want more, if you want to be on your own more, but you don't want to live alone, it might be worth thinking about getting some money together to invest in just going away to an Airbnb or a hotel or something like that and giving yourself just little retreats alone. You do not have to be someone who wants to live solo. If you just want experiences of being solo to do your writing or just to be on your own, away from family or whoever you live with, you can do that. But if you do want to move into your own place and you have that ability, you can think of it as an experiment. It doesn't have to be forever. And while you're doing it, try and recognize exactly how interesting it is that we recharge and we nurture ourselves when we're alone. We plug ourselves into the wall, is how I kind of see it. It's really interesting how you can regenerate and get your energy back when you're alone. And I know that, not everybody's the same in that way. I classically do recharge alone. I do love being around people. I love the energy exchange, but it is not how I fill up my energy store. I use my energy store from those exchanges. I recharge alone. So try to enjoy the experience of knowing that you can do that and the independence and sovereignty that comes from that. And of course, if you are in a position to, at this point in your life, get a pet if you live alone. I know lots of people that live alone that say they probably wouldn't like it without their cat or their dog or their guinea pigs or whatever. Like I said, I'm just not ready yet, but that's why I have a collection of plushies with names and characters, and I hug them while I watch my films or whatever, and that's got to be good enough for now. But if you're ready and you're in a position to do so and you're alone, get a pet, and then you don't live on your own anymore, basically. I hope this has been interesting. I know it was kind of a different video to usual. Thank you so much for checking it out. If you live on your own, let me know down below, what are the pros and cons for you? Do you want to live on your own in the future? Do you think it's something that you might try to do? Is there anything in this video that surprised you that I said about living alone? Let's have that interesting, fizzy comment section as usual. And until next time, much love, darlings, and blessed be.